Nara did not get the scout off that position, and Nara assumed that because Chojja was blocking that ramp, that there would be a base there, that there would be an expansion there, and therefore he sent his forces down to the bottom left of the map, to the bottom left expansion, and that has bought Chojja some much valuable time. So mind games by Chojja, helping him, buying him a little bit of time to try and allow him to defend, but I don't know what he's going to do versus 3 tanks and that medic and marine force. Substantial medic and marine force by Nara, and Nara is sieging outside of Chojja's ramp now, and unfortunately that tank is sieged in front, within the sunken line. That was very poor by Nara, and Chojja is now able to attack the other tank with his mutalisks, and it looks like he's going to actually take out 2 of the tanks, so Nara now reduced to 1 tank, so that's very bad for Nara, and Chojja is deepening his sunken line by building more sunkens. He continues to buy himself more time, and Chojja has got his hive up. Chojja's hive is up. He's also built an expansion at the 12 o'clock position, so Chojja really going all out here, taking all the risks. Those 2 expansions would be very vulnerable were Nara to discover them. I'm sure he could drop them as soon as he got his science, his starport with control tower, and Nara does have a starport with control tower, and if he's aware of those 2 expansions, you can expect a drop coming from him very, very soon, but I don't see how he can be aware. I haven't seen a comsat go off, and Chojja doing an excellent job, and you can see just how hard it is to assail that map. Even as a Terran, Nara was unable to get up that ramp, and Chojja, with those sunkens positioned at the top of that ramp, is able to actually defend, and Nara has comsat scanned the top, the 12 o'clock position. He's comsat scanned the 12 o'clock expansion, so we can totally expect a dropship from Nara to that base very, very soon to try and take that, to try and take out that base and try and slow Chojja down. And Nara, now this is very careless by Nara. We saw this in the game against Goresh as well. He's left that tank straggling around. There were no marines around it to defend it, and Chojja has actually picked that off. So amazing micro by Chojja there to take care of that tank. And Chojja, if he's allowed to continue unchecked with these 2 expansions, is going to have 4 gas, and the game is going to turn in his favor. Chojja was limited to 2 gas and to 2 hatcheries for a long time, competing with Nara's 2 command centers and 2 refineries, and you should have said that really in any other way, in any other game, that should have been GG. That should have been a victory for Terran. That is an advantage that Zerg player should not have been able to overcome, but Chojja is continuing to survive. He is putting up a tenacious fight here against Nara, and Nara really needs to find those expansions. He does know, he is aware about the one at the top of the map at 12 o'clock, and he needs to take that out, and Chojja is now morphing Guardians in his main, so Chojja's main is basically going to be unassailable. Nara has a science vessel out, but he's not going to have enough radius to go up against those Guardians, so he's not going to be able to assault Chojja's ramp, and Chojja playing a very defensive strategy here. He's content to just sit there and defend, and Nara has not taken advantage of this to try and expand himself, to try and establish a further foothold in the map. I guess he feels that as a Terran player, the 2 bases are enough for him. Unfortunately for him, his siege tank positioning wasn't the best. I guess he was in a little bit of a hurry to try and get up that ramp, and unfortunately, because that attack failed, you have to feel that that has helped swing the momentum a little bit back to the even keel. And just from Nara's first-person viewpoint, you can see that Nara is not aware of the expansion at 6 o'clock. Nara does not know that there is an expansion at the 6 o'clock position. He is aware of the expansion at the 12 o'clock, and you can just see Chojja's middle is coming into harass there, and Nara has that dropship, and I think Nara is actually looking to drop maybe an SCV with that expansion down at the 6 o'clock position himself to create another expansion for him, and Nara actually is now taking the 5 o'clock expansion. Nara's got forces there. He realizes that those 2 bases are not going to be enough for him because Chojja has got the 3rd base in the middle of the map, and this is something that Nara often does when he's playing Zerg versus Terran versus Zerg. He tries to stay on par, and I think Nara might have seen that expansion at 6 o'clock. I think Nara might finally be aware of it there, but Chojja has got, and Nara with a D-Matrix dropship, brilliant by Nara, D-Matrix dropship, and Chojja with 4 Scourges takes the dropship out. Chojja had 4 Scourges there to counter the D-Matrix dropship. Talk about anticipation by Chojja. I don't think he had those 4 Scourges there to anticipate a D-Matrix dropship necessarily, but I think he was certainly anticipating a drop by Nara and maybe science vessels, so he had those Scourges there, and now Chojja is moving with his Guardians down towards the 5 o'clock to the 7 o'clock expansion that Nara has newly set up. I'm not sure if Nara is going to be able to defend this, but Chojja only has a handful of Guardians. He needs more than that if he's going to take that expansion. And Chojja is actually building an Ultralist Cavern as well. I just noticed that a couple of seconds ago. Chojja has got an Ultralist. Oh my god, this is completely crazy. Chojja, after having his rush failed, has fast-teched, has expanded, has got those 4 bases, has got those 4 hatcheries up now, and is actually able to compete. He's actually ahead now of Nara. He's turned this game around on its head. Completely brilliant play by Chojja. Nara allowing him back into the game, and Nara may regret his mistake of not finishing Chojja off early in the game, of losing that first Medical Marine group, of losing that first tank push that he had on Chojja, since when he has actually been on the defensive the entire time, and Chojja just waiting for reinforcements to attack that newly built expansion of Nana's at 5 o'clock. As I've said, we have seen Nana do this oftentimes in many games in Terran versus Zerg. He tries to be on par in macro, in a number of expansions against Zerg, and I think that's a very, very wise strategy by him. He always tries to have as many expansions as a Zerg player. If he sees a Zerg player put up an expansion, he puts up one of his own to counter, other than just trying to, and he also tries to destroy the expansion. So Nana is very, very aware of not letting the Zerg get too far ahead of resources, but unfortunately that's exactly what he has done this time. But he is aware of those two expansions at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and he needs to do something about that right now, as quickly as possible, if he's going to win the game. And Nana, again with the D-Matrix dropship, there's no Scourges this time, and there's two of them, so you have to fear that this time Chojja's base will not survive. Chojja has a single Sunken there, but that's not going to be enough. And Chojja dropping an Ultralisk in his base. Chojja had an Ultralisk in that Overlord, so that Ultralisk might be able to help him survive. But that expansion gets taken, Sunken gets taken down, and Chojja arrives with Mutalisks and Scourges, but that's not going to be enough. And Chojja with a large group of Scourges coming down towards those two dropships, and again a D-Matrix dropship, and Chojja had about 6 Scourges, and he manages to take out the D-Matrix dropship, but one of the dropships still survives, so Nana is still going to be able to reinforce that. Meanwhile, Chojja is now attacking Nana's base at the 5 o'clock expansion, and he's dropping Ultralisk. Chojja with an Ultralisk drop inside Nana's main. I can't remember the last time I've seen Ultralisk in a Zerg versus Terran matchup. This is just classic StarCraft. It's just been so long since you see players use Ultralisks, and I'm really glad to see Chojja use them here. I have to say, Chojja is playing a completely unorthodox game, from the early kind of 7-pool Zergling rush to the two hatchery build, into the double expansions at the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock position, and the fact that Chojja has not even built a Defiler's Den. Chojja has yet to make a Defiler's Den, has yet to produce any Defilers, and he may yet regret that, because he's now lost that expansion. And Nana now with another dropship that is D-Matrix, and he's comsatted Chojja's expansion at 12 o'clock, so Chojja has to be aware that this dropship is coming in, and Nana might actually be able to take out that expansion at 12 o'clock. Chojja has reclaimed the island, and Chojja with a couple of Scourges attacking that D-Matrix dropship, but that's not going to be enough. But Chojja does have an Ultralisk there, picking off those Marines as they are dropped, and Nana is now having to cope with Ultralisk. This is the price he has paid for allowing those two expansions to survive so long. He did kill the expansion at 6 o'clock, but Chojja has retaken that island. He's probably going to rebuild an expansion there, and Chojja is now building an expansion at the 5 o'clock, so Chojja in pure cowboy mode, trying to spread himself across the map, and produces a large stream of units. And Chojja is indeed retaking that expansion at 6 o'clock, and he's going to just try and harass Nana a little bit with that single Guardian, and probably maybe Lurkers or something in that. And actually, yeah, I was going to comment on that we have yet to see any Lurkers or Defilers from Chojja, and that is very, very unorthodox for such a late game Terran play to not see, at least these days. It might have been used a lot in the past, and this really is a blast from the past. And Chojja drops off a couple of Ultralisks in Nana's natural expansion, and Nana's going to find his SCVs coming under serious fire here. He brings out those science vessels. I'm not sure how good an idea it is to actually irradiate those. This is actually something I wondered about, and I wonder if someone can tell me. I presume that those irradiated Ultralisks are going to be hurting those Marines when they're in proximity to them, and therefore killing them off sooner. So I've always wondered that if that's a bit of a double-edged sword, casting Irradiate on those Ultralisks, and I'd be grateful if one of you guys can let me know in a post or a comment about that, and maybe I'm just being a complete noob about it, because it's not something I've actually tested out, and maybe I should just not be lazy and test it out. And Nana trying to build an expansion at the 3 o'clock position, and that's going to get taken out as well. So Chojja not allowing Nana to get another base, Chojja not allowing Nana to establish a foothold, and you have to feel that this game has slowly but surely slipped from Nana's grasp, and Nana now going with 3 dropships. He's going for another drop, this time in the 12 o'clock position. Chojja trying to intercept. Chojja has anticipated brilliantly this game. Chojja has anticipated the dropships, and the Scourges are going for those dropships, and there's nowhere for those dropships to drop those units, and 2 of the dropships get taken out. And Nana with an exasperating sigh. That was painful. Nana actually felt that as a body blow. Nana felt that as a knife jab right in the middle of his ribs. Those dropships being taken out by the Scourges. Absolutely genius anticipation by Chojja off those dropships, and Chojja has got about 6 or 7 hatcheries now. He's just mass producing units from over there, and Nana is going to be overwhelmed pretty soon. You feel that this game has now become practically unwinnable, and I think Chojja is trying to be silly here. He's not trying to finish the game off. He's just trying to be silly and humiliate Nana with that queen. I think he wants to try and take that command center, and he's got a number of Scourge coming down towards that command center, and if he's able to take that Scourge, take that command center, and Nana irradiates the queen, so he won't be taking that command center. He won't be investing at any time. So Nana has built up a serious number of science vessels though, and even though Chojja has been killing off his dropships with those Scourges, he hasn't killed off any science vessels, and Nana could just simply switch to cheater Terran mode and still win this game. Terrans are incredibly resilient players are an incredibly resilient race and hard to kill. And Nana, if he's able to mass enough science vessels and protect them well with medic and marines, and he does have the micro to be able to do that, might still find himself a way back in this game. But what he needs is another base. What he needs definitely and desperately is more gas. He needs another refinery, and he's going to be running out of minerals soon. He's already out of minerals in his main. He's going to be running out of minerals in his natural. So he needs an expansion desperately if this game is to go on much longer, if he is to survive.